So I'm driving down the road, and there's this old car in front of me, and I'm like, what is that smell? And it smelled like burning brakes. So I'm like, man, that guy needs to work on his brakes. But then he turned off, and a couple miles later, I'm still smelling burnt brakes. And I'm like, uh-oh. So I pull over, and sure enough, it's me. So it turns out, on this side, you guys remember when I redid my brakes, you saw the other side get done, and then I did this side off camera. Turns out my emergency brake cable is frozen. So I was riding my emergency brake on one side after I set it, and that thing was smoking hot. I definitely smoked those brakes. So I hate doing things twice, but we're gonna have to do an emergency brake cable. Let's hit it. So we're gonna climb underneath. I'm on my driver's side here. We're gonna climb underneath, and I'll show you the emergency brake cable setup. This is the side that's got a stuck cable. If you follow that cable up, you can see it goes here into this little bracket, and right here, this is what gets pulled when I step on my emergency brake. There's the cable that runs all the way up and goes to the pedal. So you step on that, this gets pulled, and that pulls the emergency brakes on either side. Now, as you can see, if I pull this clamp right here, look, okay, that side, which goes to my passenger side brakes, is perfectly fine. That pulls fine. But this side, which goes to my driver's side parking brake, is apparently, it might not be completely seized, but it's seized enough that it just doesn't undo itself, and it rides that parking brake for a little while after I set it once. So I need to get that off, and the way to do that is going to be by taking that little nubby right out of there. And it's not that difficult. What I'm going to do is essentially loosen this bracket so it comes this way on this. You can see I already got it sprayed up, and I'm going to loosen that up, maybe even take it off. And what that's going to do is give me all this slack that you see here. It's going to let me pull that slack through, and I'll be able to have enough slack here to just pull that apart. And we're going to take that off on this end. Then we got to climb out, and this is the part that sucks. I have to pull that wheel off, pull that hub off, pull that whole shaft out of there, and take my brakes off, and essentially redo everything that I did in my last video, which sucks, just to do an emergency cable. So we got to do it, so let's just do it. Alright, so if you want, you can go ahead and throw on a pair of vice grips or something on this end. I probably don't really need to, because I've actually already adjusted this parking brake back when I did the brakes, and so mine's kind of loosened up. You can see I've already got it all sprayed off again. You can also hear my stupid dog up in the window. And yeah, mine's going to turn nice and easy. Let's just get that off. And I'll skip right over this part. Not only because it's boring and you don't need to see this, but because my dog is a mental case. There we go. You can see I got that nice and floppy loose. And now I should be able to have enough slack to pop that little guy out of there. Do a little of this maybe. I sprayed it, lubed it up a little. There we go. And that's off. Alright, now up here on that little clamp, we got to get this undone. Essentially all you're trying to do is squeeze these little prongs. That's what's holding it in. I'm going to start with method 1, which is my 12-point half-inch wrench. You can see I got that cable pulled out of there. And I'm just going to slide that right on there and just try to see if I can't get that to push those little prongs in. I got that pretty much pressed flat. There we go. That's one method to do it. Run that guy through there. And there we go. We got this undone from this end all the way. And now it's time to go to the wheel, sadly. Alright, I've already shown this whole process once in my rear brake video, which was only, 2 videos ago. But for those that haven't seen that and just tuning in, you're going to want your 7/8. We're going to take off the lugs and get that wheel off. Then we're going to use the 3/4, and we're going to take this little spindle out of here. Alright, there's a shaft in there. If you haven't seen that military impact driver of mine, check out my last video. These things are pretty cool. It's plugged right into the front of my truck, 24 volt. Luckily, the gasket in this thing is a metal gasket, so I can reuse this. And it's brand new. That's that. I'm going to pop this puppy out of there. Oh, I didn't lose too much, surprisingly. Let me get a rag. There we go. Alright, now we got to get these spindle nuts out of here. First thing we got to get off is this little retaining clip. That's just a pair of needle nose. There's a little retainer. And now we got to get the spindle nut off. Once again, you're going to use a special tool for this. This is a W1270 if you got yours at, say, O'Reilly's. But it's special because, let me get a little closer, you can see I filed down the insides and rounded off the insides of those little prongs, and you're going to want to do that. All right, look down close and you're going to see this little chuck. Let's take your needle nose, pull that out of there, hang on to that, and now we should be able to simply undo that little spindle nut. It should have like no pressure on the thing, really. It was only on with 35 foot-pounds. There we go. Got that bad boy out of there. And now there's nothing left but that bearing. And that stays in there. And now comes the heavy part. You got to get this bad boy off, which mine is probably, yeah, stuck as can be. That is not going to be fun. That is the emergency brake. So that's going to take me a minute. I have to do a little smacking and I'll be right back. Well, as much fun as that wasn't, I got that hub off and now it's time to take my brand spanking new brakes out of there. Just grab yourself your little brake tools and let's get to it. Gonna get them springs off the top and pull the whole thing off. You've seen it before. If you haven't, go check out my rear brake video. It's the blue one. There we go. That guy's off of there. And we got this little spring here. It's really not a spring. It's a rigid little thing. Get that off of there. All right. You don't want to hang on to all this stuff. All right. That comes off. It shouldn't, but it does. Now we're going to get these little guys here off. Little quarter turn. That should do ya. Nice and simple. Little pins, little cups. Save all that stuff. All right. Little springs, get a little piece of your adjuster there, and really that'll just pop out of there now. There we go. All right, and there we have our brake cable. Here's the emergency brake cable, pulled in, stuck in. That sucks, but it is what it is. And you can see I glazed those brakes up pretty nice. I didn't kill them though. I'm gonna reuse them. I think they'll wear in and be fine. But now it's time to get this off. What you do is just basically pull that chuck and pull it out. But as you can see, my brake cable pulled in all the way. I'm gonna have a little struggle with that, but let's see what we can do. All right, got my vice grips on there. Hopefully you can see it from that angle. Now, I'm not going to be able to really pull that spring back toward me at all because that's all the way compressed, so I'm just going to try to wrench that thing out. There we go. And that's that. Now we're going to do the same trick with a little 1/2 inch 12 point and try to pull that cable out of there. There we go. Listen to my neighborhood. Here it is. And that thing was just jammed as jammed can be. That wasn't going to move at all. I don't know what happened. It seemed like it was moving at first when I did this, but it just quit. But there's that piece of garbage out of there. Let's go grab a brand new one. All right, here is the new cable. Here, hopefully you can see that. There is your part number. It's a C93253. Just a basic Dorman product. Where'd I get this? I think Amazon. And here we go. All right, I'll measure it up. Hopefully it's the same size and everything's golden. Let's find out. Measuring that puppy up, you pretty much see that's your Huckleberry right there with plenty of extra room. And unlike that old one, look at that. That's how them bad boys are supposed to be working. So let's throw it in. Plug that in the same way the old one came out. Right back there. Stick it through. And we're just going to poke that little guy through there. Get this guy lined up. There we go. That's locked right in there. Now we got to put it back together. Of course, it's going to be a lot easier getting that cable onto your brake. Now that it actually moves nice, just pull some out, slide that puppy in there, we're done. All right, we'll throw this back up here. All right, those shoes are back in, all the springs are back in, everything's cool. And again, if you don't know how to do this, go back about 2 videos, 3 videos in my collection of videos and look at how I did the brakes. I break it down nice and simple for you. No need to waste time on it now. So now, before I go putting the hub back on, I'm going to go ahead and get underneath there and hook that brake cable back up while it's all still open and I can see what's going on. All right, back underneath. I'm going to run everything through the way we got it. The way it was. Nice. Go ahead and run it through my bracket. I'll tell you, this new one's a much tighter squeeze into that hole. Hopefully I'm not going to have to get in there and route that out on my bracket. It's going, but just a word of wisdom, you might struggle a little with this, getting that through there. I might have to route that hole out. It's a little bit rusty. So give me a sec. I'm going to route the hole of this bracket just a skosh. I was able to get that routed out just mildly. All I use is your basic Dremel tool. You know, get a little of the rust off. All right, that's run through and it's hooked back in where it belongs, right here. And that's all good to go. You can see I still got this slightly floppy. All right, I'll do the adjusting afterwards. I just want to get the hub back on, get the wheel on, make sure it rolls the way it should, and I'll adjust from there. And to adjust, you just tighten this one up. That's your adjustment. Other than that, that's a brand new cable right there. That looks pretty good. All this seems to be working fine. You can see that's pulling. This one's pulling fine, much better. All right, I'll adjust that up after we get it rolling. All right, the hub's on, the wheel's on, everything is torqued to spec. And again, to see that and to get the specifications for the torque, I would encourage you to go ahead and view my last brake video about 2-3 videos ago, and I give you all the torque specs and everything you need there. All right, that is that. I've adjusted it. You can see how much that I have sticking out now. You can see the slop is out of this. It's got some tension to it, and you want to adjust that. You know, the best way to tell is make sure you don't have any drag. Put your truck in gear with the brake off. Make sure there's no drag at all. It just rolls nice. And then on your pedal, you want to make sure it's got some meat. Like mine's about halfway down when it grabs, and then I got some clicks, and that's nice. You don't want that to the point that it starts grabbing right up here. You know, that means you're too tight, and you're probably going to drag that emergency brake. You also don't want this thing to go all the way down to the floor before it starts grabbing. Find that nice middle spot. Again, make sure that this thing, when you put it in gear, it rolls smooth. Make sure it rolls, you know, down a slight incline when it's in neutral, no grab. And then test your brake. Now, in this case, I was able to put my brake on, and I can put this thing in a drive or reverse and give it a little blip on the gas, and this thing don't move. So I'm back to good to go. It's beautiful, and that's another job done. There it is, we're done, and I'm a little gross and sweaty. It started to get warm out here, so I'm going to go in and get cleaned up and just enjoy another job well done, because this works perfectly. And once again, I appreciate you watching my video, and I hope to see you soon. See you next time.